What is up and welcome back everyone. Today is a big day for the Forester. Today is the day we get to go ahead and start putting parts on the Forester. So we got something really special today. So what we have is some replacements for my really rusted out and really beat down struts. So my struts have over 300,000 kilometers on them. I thought it's time to change them, maybe fix that clunky noise. So that's what we're doing today. Today we'll be installing flat out suspensions GR Lite setup for the Subaru Forester. So it's going to give us a little bit, I believe, a little bit more travel, and it's going to give us a lot more room. Another thing with that is it will actually be lifting the Forester up, so we don't have to go ahead and install subframe spacers. We have our lift right there on the suspension. So it's more of a coilover setup than a strut setup, which is really cool because we have coilovers on the STI. And what's even nicer is because there's more room, you could theoretically fit a bigger tire if you wanted. But you guys are going to have to stick around to see my wheels and tire setup for another video. Before we go ahead and install our fancy new suspension, I think we might as well try to get this old suspension out. I have a feeling if it's anything like the rest of the front that we were dealing with in the last couple videos, we're going to have a tough time with some of these bolts. So I'm going to get ahead of the game and start pulling these out right now because I have a feeling we're going to be here for a while. I'm not really worried about the top ones because these should be pretty easy to remove. But if you remember a video from doing the A-arms and the sway bar, in this particular corner, we've had a lot of issues. As you can see, I have went ahead and angle grinded this one out because it was in my way for the axle that we put in. So we now have only the top bolts here, but we got all the bottom bolts on everything else. So I'm gonna have to probably angle grind a few of them and probably use a snipe and a breaker bar, so wish me luck.
And I was right. The struts fought every second I tried to get them out. The only easy one being the one that I had to grind the bolts out previously. While the strut top bolts weren't bad, every bottom bolt required the breaker bar and a snipe attached, and therefore breaking a few nuts and bolts in the process.
Well, there's a nut. Still got the metal in it, and there's half the studs, so they're coming out. They're just not coming out the easiest way. Good thing I got a few spares of these. Well, we got all those bolts out and we got the old struts out, and we had a fair amount of casualties. Like, check out this one. So this one I had to file off because it actually wouldn't go through the strut, so I actually filed it down and pulled it through. We had, as you guys saw, I sheared this bolt right apart. So there's one half, there's the other half, and then we got the one that I angle grind on the front a little while ago to get that one off. And then we have the nut to that. So we got a fair amount of hardware left, but we definitely lost some in the process. But now it's time to go ahead and start installing. So this is what we took out. And as you guys saw in the intro, this is what we're putting in. But I'm not the only one installing it today. Today we have Austin with Flat for Off-Road, the guy that I go with his Subaru Forester. We go off-roading, overlanding all the time. But the Subaru isn't here because it has met an unfortunate demise and pulled a Subaru. But anyways, so what we gotta do is first we gotta go ahead and set up the coilovers to go in because they actually do lift the Forester, which is awesome because then you don't have to install spacers. So we got to go through and actually figure out what we need to do with that. So that's what we're going to go do first. So once we know what we're doing, I'll let you know. So these ship with zero preload and like folded up as most coilovers do, so they actually fit in the box. So we've just wound them to be level here and then just like enough preload where the spring doesn't move around. And check that out, besides them being really pretty, they have so much customizability that you could probably like raise, lower your car and do whatever you want with these. So I think we're gonna try with this setup, just level here and the preload set to just clamp down the spring a little and see how that works. And if it doesn't, all we gotta do, I guess, is bring this down a little bit more and it'll raise the car a little bit more. So wish us luck. So I was putting in this front one right here and I got it like the bolts in, and then I realized that it's the wrong way. The little fork for the brake line is not on the side I wanted it to be, so we have to go ahead and change this over. But even worse, Austin pretty much got the rear one installed, and we looked after realizing this one was the wrong way, and that one's the wrong way too. So we've been putting on the right side suspension on the left hand side, and he's been putting on the right hand or left hand side on the right hand side. So gotta switch it, and then we can eventually get it in. But that's what it looks like in the car, so yeah. Just on the wrong side though. This time putting in the right sides, we actually were able to do them a fair bit quicker because we actually know what we're doing now. So there's the front, and then if we go back here, we have the rear. I gave Austin all the hard ones. I gave him the rear ones, which you have to like kind of manipulate the jack to line up, and I got all the easy ones, but they're all pretty much in now, so it's time to see how much or how they fit. One thing I am noticing though was like we're starting to be limited by the rest of the car, not the suspension, because right like on the trailing arm is a thing that we gotta keep in mind, because as you can see kind of here it pushes it towards the front of the wheel arch, and if you got big tires like I may or may not have, then it'll actually start to rub against that. And then if we go to the front, at full droop, it's actually like pulling on the ABS. So that's also something we got to be careful of. You could always, I guess, remove it from the top of the chassis and get a little more room that way, but then you run the risk of, I guess, running it into the tires. So there we go, pretty much all done. It's nice doing this in stages and not having to, like we did with the STI, pull everything apart, put everything together in like super short time frame. So yeah, these went in pretty well, and I know what I'm doing. The STI, that was the first mod ever, so that took a little bit longer too. And there we go. So we have now all 4 corners done up and tightened up, so the car is theoretically ready to be put back on the ground. But we're not going to do that tonight. I know a lot of you guys are probably wanting to see this car with the suspension and it lifted up and seeing how this performs, but we're actually going to be waiting for a little bit longer. You're going to have to watch a couple more videos before that happens. And there's one specific reason, because we're not going to be putting on those tires there. Austin brought one other really awesome thing with him when he came by to help out and drop those off. Look at these. These are Black Rhino wheels. I'm not actually going to show them in this video. You're going to have to leave you guys with a little bit of suspense, but we have some new wheels for the Forester. I'm going to let you guys guess in the comment section below what you think I'm going to be putting on this Forester. So we're going to have to leave the car on the jack stands for tonight with the coilovers all installed. But that's enough about the wheels that you guys aren't seeing today, and let's talk a little bit more about the coilovers. So as I mentioned, we're not going to be lowering it, so it's kind of hard to dial in the height. So obviously we got to do that a little bit later. I will need alignment just because, well, we've changed the whole suspension system, so we will be getting it aligned. There is one thing that we got to go ahead and fix, I guess, or change up before we completely dial in the suspension. And that's these in the back. So if you notice, the camber plates, I think they actually just changed these and they're not using these anymore, is the bolts are actually interfering with the where it comes out. So we got to change it to the first set of holes, so that's not really a big deal. Just undo the top bolts and then push it down and undo those camber plate bolts, and then just move around on the plate. And then that's really it before we start dialing the height. One thing I'd like to just point out, so this is the rear, so we can just take a little bit of a closer look at it, is it is huge compared to the Strut. It just looks so much more beefy and off-road ready, so that's really cool. But this, like, when we put this, we didn't actually have to lift it up anymore to get it there, so that is like pretty much what you would say is full droop, and that is insane. Look at that much travel we have. And that is the rear flat-out suspension GR Lite setup for the Subaru Forester. So yeah, that is going to be a lot of fun. One thing I guess is they got to keep clean, well, because it's a racing or it's a performance strut now. So that's just something that I guess any car, like same with the STI, anything you kind of start to create more of a performance orientated thing, it just takes a little more maintenance. And then here in the front, this was the one that I initially put the wrong way. It does have the brackets for the ABS line and the brake line. One thing I am noticing though is because it's at full droop again, it's not pulling up the strut at all. We're actually like almost maxing out these lines and this cable for the ABS sensor. So that is something, if I'm raising it anymore, I gotta be aware of when it goes into full droop, because we might be tearing off those lines. You can kind of maybe make some adjustments with that, but that's again a limitation of the chassis. So I think now we're limited by the Forester itself and not by the suspension, so maybe someday we'll have to do something about that. And with that being said, I think that's going to be the end of today's video of lifting my Subaru Forester. I can't wait to put this on the ground and see what it looks like, especially with those new wheels and tires, which you guys don't know about yet. And just one other thing, I would like to thank Austin at Flat for Off-Road for helping with this. This is awesome. He helped source the parts, he helped bring them in, and he helped installing, so that's really helpful. And plus he does some really cool off-road adventures that might be going on in the near future, so watch out for that. But this is going to be the end of lifting my Forester, even though it's not on the ground yet. It is definitely lifted and definitely is a little more off-road capable. So that's going to be the end of today's video. But if you guys want to see the adventures that this car is going on pretty soon, or the mods with the wheels and tires and seeing it actually roll on the ground, be sure to follow along. But that is going to be it for today. So as always, peace out and stay humble.